On this channel, I've ranked every Hasbro film, every live-action Hasbro film, and every Lego film. What choice was there next but every Barbie film? Because frankly, doing every Mattel film would just be Barbie and Co, and I'd have to include the Masters of the Universe movie, which I'd rather not if I can help it. Today we have an even 50 movies, from short films to cinema blockbusters, from the early days of Barbie playing characters in existing stories to the modern day Dreamhouse adventures. I watched all of them in a row, and here are my thoughts, my definitive but wholly unreliable ranking of all 50 Barbie movies that I chose to include. By the way, this video is sponsored by GFuel. That's right, your all-in-one plant-based energy formula. I didn't have any idea how to do a funny ad for this because I don't want you to hear a terrible Barbie impression for 2 whole minutes. GFuel contains 0 carbs, calories, or sugars, but does contain antioxidants. But it also has caffeine, meaning you shouldn't drink it if you're under the age of 18. Please ignore the random Barbie footage going on in the background. It has nothing to do with anything I'm saying. And even if you're over the age of 18, you should still drink it responsibly, or you should purchase the hydration range to enjoy the flavor without the caffeine. Remember, you can go to the link in the description and use code BLOODRIVE for 20% off your order, with over 50 flavors available in tubs and or cans. Okay, goodbye.
You know, I'm sure I could get you a part in Toy Story 3. I'm sorry, are we back?
Zen Goes Hollywood wasn't originally on my list because it's not a Barbie movie by name. But it is a movie of a Barbie spin-off subline featuring Barbie in it, and I thought I'd throw it on here because how bad could it be?
This
bad.
is bad.
Half this movie is Barbie and Co doing nothing but fucking around while a movie gets made around them. The other half is that annoying trope where a character gets popular and hangs out with the cool crowd, so they just begin completely blowing off their friends. Which, yes, can be done right, like with almost every trope, but it's not done right here. It's literally just fucking annoying, and I hate it. Lindsay Lohan is the main character for some goddamn reason I don't understand. Harvey Weinstein cameos in a Barbie movie, which is insane, and hilarious, and fucking horrible because he flirtatiously talks about a young teen actress's future prospects on camera, and that's just horrible. Almost none of what happens in this film has any meaning or purpose. The movie eventually just ends, nobody learns their lesson, it's just a whole bunch of gobbledygook. Oh yeah, and the animation is ass while we're at it.
Happy birthday, dear Hudson.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! What the fuck is this?
This entire roster of films is pretty much entirely composed of movies for little girls. So it says something that Barbie and Chelsea the Lost Birthday is the only movie that I watched and thought, this is a baby movie for little girls. These movies are all kid-friendly, inoffensive for the most part, and childish movies, where the stakes rarely go high, there's rarely much serious stuff happening. You know, the bit where Barbie talks about racism is not from any of the movies. But Barbie and Chelsea is where the line gets drawn for me. This movie is for babies. Nothing much happens for a while, and then Chelsea goes on a journey that's she just gets riddles and solves them, and the side characters do nothing until they have an unabashedly cringe musical number, and then they outsmart the sentient tiki face and are faced with the difficult choice of which of them gets to make a wish on the MacGuffin. Chelsea gives it to the purple elephant, and then that elephant gets her wish anyway when her long-lost parents just spawn in. This also solves everyone else's problems, and now Chelsea can make her wish and story over. What am I even supposed to say about this one? Anyone who enjoys this is definitely free to, but I can't help but take a stand and say this is the limit where it becomes a bit too childish for me. I'm not this movie's demographic. I'm ranking it low for that. Maybe it's not its fault.
Can't be that easy. It's that easy.
Is it unfair to put the 25-minute long My Scene Masquerade Madness on the list at all? Yes, but also I don't care. The My Scene sub-series is just so goddamn bland. It feels like it wants to be a 16 and Bratz hybrid without any of the appeal of either. Barbie is barely a character in all this, and this one in particular is very much just a bunch of miscommunication teen drama that's played out and boring. Make sure Chelsea doesn't find out about her secret birthday party. Oh no, they can't find out I need maths tutoring. My tutor should pretend to be my boyfriend. Oh no, I'm a blabbermouth. Better tell her I have a crush on the guy we think she is girlfriend to. And the things within the film itself aren't fully developed or concluded. It just sort of It ends. They have a party, all their bullshit is resolved with no issues, it's there. Yeah, not a fan. We're 3 entries in and 2/3 of the way through the My Scene catalog. That's a good sign.
Total Drama Island.
Barbie is the Island Princess, oh joy. A movie where the title literally spoils the already obvious plot twist at the end. What a shock. Island Princess, I think, is most aptly described by the fact that 95% of it takes place in one building in its courtyard. It focuses on the romance between 2 characters I don't care about, and conveys a moral that the movie itself betrays. Ro is not among the more interesting Barbies, and I didn't even bother remembering the prince's name. I don't care about either of them. The most entertaining character to me was Luciana because she was responsible, likable, introduced in purple, and has a very believable character who I actively want to see more of because her struggles of living to please her mother at the cost of sacrificing what she really wants genuinely invested me more than Ro or the Prince's bullshit. In the last 40 minutes of the movie, the story starts happening when Luciana's evil mother poisons all the animals and goes, "Oh, it must be because Ro bought all those animals." And the royal scientist just goes, "Yep, that makes sense, has to be it, there's no other possible scenario." And then hearing Ro and the animals are a danger, the king has her put in prison instead of executed or banished or otherwise sent somewhere that isn't deeper into the fucking castle. Tiki is an annoying piece of shit who does nothing but whinge and complain, relatable. I don't care if she's supposed to be a little baby, I can't stand when characters go out of their way to sabotage someone else's happiness out of spite. The animals in general I didn't care about, aside from the peacock because at least he had a character trait worth a damn. I don't care about this movie. And what was that about the morals of the movie? Right. The idea that people should be allowed to love who they love no matter their relative social standings. Love is love. Ro might be an island-dwelling gremlin woman, but the prince can still marry her despite being so much richer. He doesn't need to marry another princess just because he's a prince. He should marry who he loves. Good, great. So the movie ends by revealing that Ro is a princess, so actually she's of equal standing to him. Okay, good, lovely. Cheers, mate. At the very least, the actual scene of her reuniting with her mother and them singing the song they used to sing together was quite nice. Otherwise, bad movie.
You look like a thumb!
Barbie presents Thumbelina. I mean, no she fucking doesn't. I mean, yeah, the main character is called Thumbelina, but this is not the story of Thumbelina. You know what it is? It's a story with 3 morals that are all delivered with the subtlety that I'm about to use. Don't destroy the environment, friends are nice to each other, small things can topple big things and they do it together. Barbie even just fucking explains the latter one out to you. Which I understand these are for babies, but no movie prior to this really thought it needed to do so. Were the Barbie movies before Thumbelina really such high art that children didn't understand the messages without Barbie turning to the camera and saying the cow goes moo? Even if we ignored the fine but ridiculously unsubtle morals, the story of this movie takes place in about 2 locations that are both visually unstimulating, involving 4 characters to which only one has a personality that goes beyond one trait. There is no interesting or fun antagonist, there is no likable protagonist, there's nothing to this movie. Thumbelina gets kidnapped by accident, flies around, makes friends with some bitch, then the entire thing could have been solved just by talking to the people causing the problems, but instead, because for some reason her people aren't allowed to interact with humans at all, she just doesn't do that. So I guess she was okay with risking the lives of her home, her family, and an entire field of literal unborn babies if it meant staying true to the rules that she lives by until literally the last moment. It's nothing, the movie! My Scene German in Jamaica is probably the best of the 3 My Scene offerings I watched because it's shorter than Goes Hollywood and slightly less vapid than Masquerade Madness. It's there, I just don't know what else to say. I think this one has the benefit of being about the girls going to Jamaica and hanging out. There is still drama and teen bullshit, but I didn't feel like it was as overbearingly played out as the others. Though maybe my brain is also failing to work right now. I already have nothing to say. Please become good movies.
You better unbird me right now.
Barbie and Swan Lake is one of the least interesting movies in this entire ranking. I can only describe the movie as stuff happens. Barbie becomes a swan, Barbie unbecomes a swan. I really just don't have anything to say. There's nothing worth remembering to me. The villain is fine, I enjoyed him well enough, but unfortunately he comes with his annoying as fuck daughter, whose every line delivery is so shrill that it goes beyond funny into ear-grating. I don't care about the movie's designated love interest, I don't care about the movie's dedicated Barbie. This to me is a whatever adaptation of Swan Lake, which isn't even a story I give a shit about in the first place. Let's put it this way, it's a movie where the protagonist is given an amulet at the start of the film that makes her immune to the villain's powers. Yeah.
Do the poor really have it that bad?
I think there are a few stories in need of modernizing less than The Prince and the Pauper. Because, the story about a rich and poor person swapping places, with the poor person enjoying the money but being swamped with absurd responsibilities and overwhelming circumstances, and the rich person realizing how shit things are for the less fortunate, doesn't work nearly as well today. And it doesn't help when the pauper is turned into a pop star who is already rich, has no trouble finding money, and instead of focusing on the negatives, this story of social inequality and 2 classes finding understanding in one another becomes a story of two high-ranking people having the best of lives ever in each other's shoes. Now, spoiler alert, I do quite like Barbie's first go at adapting this story, and I tried not to let that get in the way of this. This is a new take and a new interpretation. I just hate this interpretation. These two are just whiny brats with tons of money, fame, and love. Instead of the princess being swamped with etiquette and forced to marry someone she doesn't love, she's a snide brat who actively runs away from her responsibilities, knowingly fobs off her work onto others, and just does not ever attempt to act her age. She's irresponsible and a nuisance, and while her aunt is supposed to come off as overly strict, all she ever does is remind her niece of the responsibilities that she is constantly going out of her way to forget. She's not a villain. She's just a parental figure reminding someone she loves about stuff that must be done so they don't run into it unprepared. Is that annoying for the figure being reminded all the time? Absolutely, I know the feeling. But that doesn't make her a villain. It makes her a parent. As I said, the pauper is now a pop star who literally just wants time to herself and to slack off, which I get. As a mid-level YouTuber, I know how it is to be swamped with work and just want to take time off but feel a responsibility not to. But it's not nearly as powerful and sympathetic a situation as literally homeless person struggling to survive. And when the switcheroo happens, they have an amazing time in each other's shoes. There's almost no drama and they succeed with no problems. The only drama and tension comes from an almost entirely unrelated villain trying to steal a diamond plant. Fascinating. This is just a bad adaptation and a bad story in general. It's a terrible take on an established tale that does not understand anything and makes the supposedly sympathetic characters into unlikable brats. The supposed antagonistic characters are turned into sympathetic people trying to look out for those they care about, and it only succeeds in making the main villain work by making him so one-note that he couldn't possibly be interpreted in any other way than the way intended. The literal cardboard cutout method of writing.
Slap and bring him back to life.
He's not a fairy!
It's my understanding that the Fairytopia series is one of the most popular sub-branches of the wider Barbie franchise. Or at least for a while it was, with 3 movies and 2 spin-off films. But the first Fairytopia did not do anything to sell it to me. Now to some extent, I did actually kind of understand why it was popular. Like, I got it, but it wasn't for me. It's a simple fantasy adventure where Barbie travels to different places, meets people, encounters magic, all to get to the villain so she can take her down. But honestly, it just bored me. I didn't care about this Barbie much, and part of that's because when I finally got around to caring about her at the end, they ruined it. And by that I mean, this Barbie plays a fairy with no wings, and she is discriminated against because of it. She eventually gets to the villain, who offers her a chance to get her wings, and she goes, "No, fuck you." While her lack of wings helped her avoid the villain's magic, the movie does dodge the whole disabilities are a superpower and never hinder you narrative. The one that thinks it empowers disabled people when really it just misrepresents things entirely. Instead, the lack of wings helps Barbie in one way, but it's primarily her own abilities and skills that save the day. If Barbie had wings, she wouldn't survive the poison, but if Barbie wasn't Barbie, she would have been utterly useless. When offered the chance to be quote-unquote fixed and given wings, she tells the villain Laverna to fuck off and saves the day. A potentially great, empowering message about how disabilities don't stop you from being a complete person. Then at the end, she gets her wings anyway. I know it wasn't meant to give the message of you can be a complete person while disabled, but you might as well be fixed anyway because that'd make you more complete. It does get across that idea. Still, the big thing for me is that I was bored watching this movie. I'm hoping the other Fairytopias pick up the slack.
I'm tired of this! I pull out a gun and I shoot Santa.
Somehow the most generic Barbie Christmas movie is not the one that adapts the most generic Christmas story. It's just this stuff. Barbie: A Perfect Christmas is a generic slice of life movie. It has no villain, it has no stakes, it has no plot. And frankly, I don't think Barbie has what it takes to pull that off for me. Or at least, I didn't at this point. This was a bad example. This one did not have that. I can enjoy these kinds of stories. My Neighbor Totoro is a very good movie in my opinion, and The Disastrous Life of Psyche K is one of my favorite anime of all time. And both of those are just slice of life stories. One is more straight, the other's more comedic, but Perfect Christmas is none of that. It's just kind of nothing happening. Several I Want songs that aren't necessarily bad but aren't great. Some interpersonal drama between the Barbie sisters that isn't necessarily bad but it really isn't doing anything for me. And essentially no story going on. This even takes place in the same continuity as Fashion Fairy Tale and Fairy Secret, which both feature a version of Ken that I really enjoy, and he's not in this movie at all. This is the most nothing happens Barbie movie as of its release, and I have little to say about it.
You know that flapping thing you were doing with your mouth just then?
You mean expressing my opinion?
Yeah, that. No more of that.
Fashion Fairy Tale, oh goody. This is the most, I think, not for me movie, short of Chelsea and The Lost Birthday. Like, while these movies are all primarily geared towards girls, I'm not someone who generally unironically subscribes to the idea of gendering subjects to the degree that a lot of people do. Fairies, mermaids, fairy tales, the Pegasus, princesses, I can bring myself to care about these. Fashion? No, I don't care. Not really because it's girly either, because I know there are plenty of guys into fashion, it's just not my scene. And this movie is about nothing but fashion, fashion, fashion. It doesn't help that I do not care about Barbie in this film. I don't find any of the secondary characters that interesting, and the story amounts to Barbie gets fired, dumped, and cancelled, which to be fair, is a wild and hilarious intro, and then she goes to Paris and the rest of the movie is her preparing for a fashion show. The Magic Pixies don't add anything, the villain is literally nothing and has the least warranted redemption arc ever, and Ken, my favourite part of the movie, is barely here. And when I say like favourite part, I mean the amount of sheer bullshit this guy goes through is hilarious.
Yes.
But I do not think it makes up for the movie's problems, because in the end, all he's there to do is be a tool to make Barbie sad so she goes to Paris, and then he shows up at the end to clear the air about he didn't actually dump her and all that. That's it. Wow, what a movie.
You're not going to Hogwarts, you're going to detention!
Barbie Princess Charm School I felt should have been a fun time. I think the Barbie characters are enjoyable enough to make an uber-specific high school storyline work, but instead of being enjoyable, this movie really just went by super quick to me. Aside from this one hysterical moment of a nerd absolutely breaking it down, I got nothing from this. Blair as a protagonist is nothing special. In fact, she kind of does that thing where they have a big message about how a being lesser in society's eyes doesn't make you actually lesser or deserving of less, only to reveal that the whole time the character was actually of the upper class, so that she never was whatever lesser thing people thought she was anyway. And the entire solution of this movie is just her showing up and going, by the way, I'm the princess who deserves the crown. And then she gets it. And the bully character really doesn't get any punishment for being a shitty person because she makes a ridiculously fast and instantaneous face turn. And this school is just not interesting. There's no drama, there's no competition, there's not even a touch of magic. There's just learning how to do boring posh shit, one fun dance scene, and then a coronation. I did not find any of the high school hijinks terribly fun. I didn't care for any of the characters, honestly. And I realize I say no magic while a bunch of fairies are flying around, but they really don't add anything. The villain feels like nothing special amongst the villains we've got on Barbie before, and frankly, the movie is nothing special. A boring and uninteresting tale that could have gone to writing charm school.
Surprise!
My first dream day is yet another fucking surprise party storyline in a Barbie project. This one taking place in the dream house, which is either a house that has an app that lets it do magic, which makes no sense and is stupid, or it is a house with projectors that use light to create illusions that have sentience, flavor, and physical mass, which makes no sense and is stupid. The songs aren't great to me. I think some can be catchy at times, but failed in any regard to be memorable after it was done. And generally, I don't like it. I think the animation is really ugly too. Barbie doesn't look anything like Barbie to me, neither did Teresa or Chelsea. I can kind of see Brooklyn because she has the hair, but even then it's like barely. The Dreamhouse's malfunction feels like it doesn't really belong. Like the entire storyline here is that between days, Barbie, Teresa, and Brooklyn try to organize 3 different birthday parties, which causes the house's magic illusion app to break down, which they really easily fix, and then they get the lesson of work together, which I don't get, I don't understand. And the party itself at the end isn't anything great either. I don't get it. I don't understand what the point of all this was. It feels like a vapid and meaningless story that gives you nothing of note. Moving along. Barbie and her sisters in a puppy chase may be getting unfairly ranked here, but I can't stop thinking about how it has the same story as Open Season 2. Being about someone chasing down an endangered dog on a road trip, only to find them with plenty of time to spare, and the rest of the movie being some other stuff that doesn't matter nearly as much. I had no investment in this movie. I never felt any urgency, I never got much entertainment. The funny dog was amusing, but that's about it. I really have nothing to say.
Drop everything.
Great Puppy Adventure feels like a movie I should like more than I do. It's a light-hearted scavenger hunt movie. There was some Dragon's Rise of Berk episodes about that same thing, and I like them. But this movie just feels like a lot of piss fighting around as nothing happens, until finally, they find the treasure! And that's the movie. I think the only reason I even put it up here is because the 2 carnival worker villains are generally quite delightful. But aside from them, I don't get anything out of this journey, the mystery or story. It's all a bunch of whatever to me.
Critics my name. Did you get that part about me saying critics my name?
Barbie and the oddly named sensations I just think is a really whatever special. It feels like it should have a better narrative and stakes than its predecessor, which we'll get to down the line, simply due to the basic premise of Barbie has been whisked backwards through time and now she has to try and find her way back. But while the premise works and feels straight out of an episode of the Transformers multiple times, specifically in the era of King Arthur, it doesn't really amount to anything here. I think it's due to the amount of musical numbers they have to work into the special. It takes away time from actually telling the story or establishing much about the characters. Barbie is literally just a not gem, a singer with radical ideas who is really nice and always promoting peace. I don't think anything particularly interesting was done with the time travel. I mean, Barbie basically just shows up 30 years in the past instead of far enough back for it to be radically different in every way, and then she just sings a time vortex into existence and goes back and that's it. I think in fact the more compelling premise and story ends up working to its detriment, because the simpler and far less engaging story of the previous special made it so that the song breaks didn't end up getting in the way, but rather they added to it by giving you something interesting to watch. In Back to Earth though, they feel like they get in the way more and take time away from expanding on the story to any interesting degree. So instead of a simple story done well, we get a potentially interesting story that's done poorly. I do like that Barbie meets the girl from the past when she returns to the present, and that girl now has her own daughter. That kind of made me happy to see. She got a happy ending. But this special is not that special, and kind of bland.
Here, have some cavities.
Barbie and her sisters in a ponytail is really fucking boring and really fucking lame. It's a movie that has a few nice moments of Barbie and her horse Majesty, but otherwise what we get is just Barbie fucking around, some pointless stuff about her sisters, and then a race to the end and that's it. We're done, story over. I also do get the pun in ponytail, but there's only one pony in the movie and it's not the main horse of the film. What can I say beyond that? I thought it was boring moving along.
Your mouth is still much too big.
The original Barbie movie, not counting those two TV films. Barbie and the Nutcracker is kind of just there to me. The writing is bland, the characters are mostly bland, the story is whatever. Really, I think what makes it the gatekeeper between mediocre to actively bad ones as tiers is that while a lot of it rings as being bad, it does have a few upsides. The Nutcracker himself is not very fun to watch because he's just kind of quiet and demure the whole time, but he is a developed character and I like that. Even if he has the beast syndrome of looking worse as a human than as the thing he was cursed into. The two dorky guys that accompany them are also really fun, but Barbie herself is barely a character. This movie has so little going for it, but it does have Tim Curry as the villain, and he makes this movie what it is. A mediocre film with a few great scenes that are all Tim Curry going at it. He has some deliciously evil lines I can't get enough of, so that's a high note to end this on. Pearl Princess was unfortunately the stinker among the Mermaid films to me. Unlike the others, which ranged from fun adventures to actually having character development and endearing stories, I just didn't really find Pearl Princess all that interesting. I thought the journey was pretty forgettable and boring. The characters were nothing special, the main protagonist was really unremarkable, and about the only thing entertaining to me was the villain, and only near the end of the movie when he randomly starts becoming a cartoon character. Literally, this movie is just Princess Mermaid Barbie goes on a journey because she feels like going to a ball, becomes a hairstylist, and then stops the villain from poisoning her dad suddenly. And if that sounds exciting to you, I guess go ahead, but for my money, this is not the direct-to-DVD movie of choice.
Is he dancing?
What is he doing?
I know that boy is not dancing.
Barbie and the 12 Princesses felt like a step back from the films that came before it. It's a slow, generally uninteresting movie that has a decent climax and a few nice moments. I guess I can own how many of these films use actual ballet and professional dancers to choreograph the movements of all the characters during the dance sequences. And yeah, they do tend to look quite nice. But this movie didn't do much for me. The villain was just kind of okay, the way she kills her cousin is kind of wild, and I do appreciate them making the 12 Princesses less outright pieces of shit compared to the original German story. But they also didn't do much with them. I understand the 12 Princesses were never the most complex or distinct characters, and this movie does try to give some of them personality, but overall I just think a series that at this point struggled to consistently give Barbie herself a personality, really tackling 12 different characters plus 2 villains and the father was a tall task and not something the film pulls off very well. God, the love interest too. Probably the best character in the movie, but still nothing special. A perfectly watchable movie, where I think the biggest plus it has is just that the writing is a bit snappier than a few of the other early ones, and the story is overall tighter and more directed.
Stay away from me, you witch!
Barbie as Rapunzel feels a lot like Barbie and the Nutcracker, in that Barbie herself is barely a character, and the movie isn't very good. But likewise, it has a few things that make it actively more interesting than it initially seems. Penelope is genuinely a developed character who is kind of interesting and has some depth to her. Her dad is kind of cool in the end, and it's nice how he does actually care about his daughter when it doesn't initially seem like he does. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the villain carries this. Mother Gothel is fantastic in this. I might actually like this version more than about any other version, which is insane to think. But, you know, she's just this pure evil piece of shit who does everything to make Rapunzel's life miserable. Which might seem confusing at first because she has no reason to do so, until you find out she does it purely out of spite towards Rapunzel's parents. Which is sickening, but also deliciously evil. In fact, the entire last 20 minutes of this film come from a different movie, outright. Gothel starts being a proper menace, destroying the place, trying to murder children, revealing her motivations as two nations go to war due to her machinations. Holy hell, she's evil and I love it. And there's actually this brief but kind of interesting development as to why the kingdoms are in jeopardy, and how Rapunzel and her boring personality-deprived love interest fit in. The action is decent, the writing gets tighter, the movie is tighter here. It makes them go from a 6 to like a 6.2.
Sorry, Courtney. I forgot those are your people.
Barbie Rock'n'Royals is riding a fine line between boring and uninteresting and actually kinda neat. With so many switcheroo stories in Barbie, it's nice to have one that's not the standard. It's just complete happenstance as two characters end up in each other's camp. And instead of trying to make you sympathize with how sucky their lives are normally, they focus on how much fun they're having, breaking away from the norm and getting engrossed in each other's worlds. Beyond just the kind of weird message of rock and royals go together, there's that message of sometimes branching out to what you're not used to and what you're not usually into, I said that twice, can be good. It can open you up to new things. Trying new things is a good thing, and I like the way that message is delivered here. And it feels like a major moment when the two leads actually meet each other. And I like that they get along so well. The whole setup for the climax I don't think is very interesting. Like, this woman sees that she has one single rock star on her side and decides to go, aha, we'll challenge the entire camp of rock stars to a music contest, and the loser has to shut down. Huh? You really think that's a good idea? They have whole classes on the production of a musical performance, while you're relying on a rock star who primarily works solo. The villain character Clive really isn't all that interesting. I guess I like the two camp leaders, though the rock star was definitely more reasonable and likable. And the musical number was kind of fun at the end. The resolution is alright, the story is alright, I think the movie is just alright. It's not super bad, not super good, but it's super serviceable. I'd say it's definitely enjoyable. I like the movie. I like the movies here now. We're at the point where I like the movies. I don't necessarily think they're great, but I do like them. I like Barbie Rock'n'Rolls.
So, did you see anything? What'd you see?
No, I didn't see anything.
Ah, the Dreamtopia movie. I didn't know this existed, and in fact had to remove a different movie, quote-unquote, from this one to fit it in, because the TV film fits way better. And to be honest, while I don't actually enjoy the Dreamtopia show that much, I was surprisingly entertained by this one. It's still not like crazy good. I think it's like on the cusp between moderately mediocre and genuinely okay. I think a big thing that I liked about this more than the show was the prevalence of non-dream scenes. It added a degree of stakes and investment. I get that this is for babies, sure, which is why it's just sparkly kiddie things happen and little babies don't understand that dreams don't have stakes or even what a stake is in general. But hey, these are all for kids and I still enjoy most of them, so whatever. Dreamtopia the movie is a fine pilot for a show I do not care about. Bonus round! Okay, so a little off script here. Initially, I was not going to include Epic Road Trip because it's an interactive sort of movie. It's not a standard linear experience. However, I ended up forgetting to put a different Barbie movie on the list, and I wanted around 50, but I didn't really want to cut this out completely, so you're just going to have a little bonus round of what I did record and edit for Epic Road Trip here. This is where it would rank if I included it, but I wanted to keep a nice even 50, so you're just going to have to deal with the fact that this is here now. So I'm in an awkward situation here where I initially banned Epic Road Trip from the list because it wasn't really a movie despite being listed, and then I wrote a whole segment on it for my 2025 new media video when I get to that, and then I realized I was close to 50 entries and wanted to just push it to 50 for the video, so now it's here. So I don't want to copy paste that segment because it's already recorded, and I also don't want to make it redundant, so I'll make this segment quick. Barbie Epic Road Trip is fine. The characters are fun, the scenarios are fun, but this is an interactive adventure, which means that the story ends up being whatever you choose it to be. And while the scenarios all feel surprisingly natural, I don't think it benefits as much from this because the premise on its own could have been a good film. Just the two Barbies going on a road trip while balancing what Ken wants, Skipper's dog adoption business, and their own desire to make it big with an audition opportunity that could really kickstart their career. As it is, it's still fun and very entertaining, but too unfocused to really rank higher.
I am Dr. Mario. Take your estrogen.
The first true Barbie movie ever made, Barbie and the Rockers Out of This World, is a really fun time. It's only 25 minutes of time, sure, and it doesn't have much in the way of depth or really anything interesting, and it is just a poor woman's gem in the holograms, but shut up. Now the songs are good, I like them quite a bit because it's that kind of 80s era baby rock that I vibe with. The animation is dated, but charming and colourful, and the story being Barbie becomes the first international peace ambassador after becoming a worldwide musical sensation and decides what she wants to do is host a concert in the middle of fuck-off space, is hysterical. But it definitely falls short just due to its minimal time and feeling like it's just a random episode of an 80s cartoon that doesn't exist. And I can see why the cartoon doesn't exist. It doesn't have the fun factor of a lot of other shows based on toy lines like Transformers or Ninja Turtles or G.I. Joe or Gem and the Holograms, but it's still good and I like it.
Oh, they fucking.
Oh, they fucking!
Barbie and the Diamond Castle is a lot like the bland generic movies from the start of my watching for this marathon, but with a few notable differences. The unfortunate one is that the villain does not hold a candle to the earliest Barbie villains. I don't even care to remember her name, and the way she just goes out is she eats shit and dies for no reason. Reveals that she faked her eating shit and dying, and then eats shit even harder and dying anyway. On the upside though, I really did like the two protagonists of this and their relationship. They are very super gay and have genuinely really good chemistry. Unlike a lot of cases where two characters are friends and everyone says, oh, they have to be gay, where I tend to wonder if those people have literally ever had a friend before because sometimes friends are just close and non-romantic. No, this is one where I absolutely see it. I see the sparks here. These two are fucking in love. They are gay. They are fucking gay. When are we gonna go back to this timeline, Barbie? Get the gay happening! And their romance with the two male leads feels so barely there that I genuinely think it's completely reasonable to interpret them as gay. And honestly, the fucky lads are pretty great. I don't hate the princely archetype that a lot of the Kens had used up to this point, but it was great to get some that broke the mold. It's what a lot of my favorite Kens do. They go stand out in some way. In this regard, they're not chivalrous, they're kind of assholes, they fuck up a lot, and they're smart-ass pricks who love to talk shit and crack jokes. They're my kind of assholes, and if they weren't English, I'd be proper willing to share a drink. That's really what got this movie up here to me. While the journey's pretty whatever, I really like the main characters. Hell, there's even a point where Barbie's girlfriend gives up on the whole journey because it's just too hard, and she wants to go home into the comforts of what she's used to due to the pressure. And that's a level of character writing you don't get in most kids' movies about adventures. She just wants to go home due to all the stress, and I fucking feel that. I also feel that way in Unfamiliar Places, and the support of Barbie helping her overcome that reminds me a lot of how my own mates tend to help me overcome that too. Just that I don't want to fuck them, while these two absolutely want to fuck each other. I'm just gonna keep saying it, this has to be one of the gayest Barbie movies. And that's not a criticism.
Something's just not right with him.
His accent will get better.
Stacy to the Rescue is a completely okay movie. It's okay. I think it has its moments, there's some fun character stuff throughout. I do kind of enjoy Stacy getting more fleshed out. I didn't watch Dreamhouse until after this marathon because there's already so much to look at. But I don't know, this movie is a lot of Barbie refusing to talk to Stacy so she doesn't hurt her feelings, and then a big balloon moment that crashes, and the climactic balloon race is barely a thing. What can I even say about this movie? It's just really dull. Like, even the last movie ended with Stacy breaking the fourth wall to tease her being the focus of this one, I feel a little let down.
But you probably won't like it.
Barbie and the Secret Door is, I think, we go from boring but kind of okay movies into actually decent ones. Or I guess this is the first one where I wouldn't be sure which of those I'd give it. This movie has a lot of really funny moments and entertaining characters. There is a villain who sometimes is pretty entertaining, and the magic powers are probably at their most creative here. This is an entertaining movie, but I honestly can't deny that this is the first musical where the songs didn't do it for me. I don't know why, but I was actively cringing at some of these, and the villain song was really one note and boring. The villain herself I think could have been an interesting idea. A princess in a world of princesses who is the only one not born with natural magic. But just like some of the other villains that kind of have a point, they do nothing with that. I like the funny purple British monster things, they were kind of cool. Beyond even just the songs not doing it for me though, I don't think the story really gets fleshed out in interesting ways. In fact, it's got one of the least engaging storylines in any of these movies to me. And I know some will say, well, what do you expect, it's a Barbie movie, but I genuinely like some of these films, and some of them have good stories. But this one kind of just has Alexa, that's this movie's Barbie, go into this magical world one day because reasons, get magic powers and a wand because reasons, have more magic than the entire kingdom and 4 unicorns combined because reasons, be immune to have her magic stolen unless she allows it because reasons. She talks with her friends for a bit, the villain Mallucia I think steals all the magic from the unicorns, and then Alexa just sits there and lets her absorb her magic, resulting in Mallucia being beaten before, like, God, I'm just lost the plot. I'm just like, my head hurts, man. I don't know, the movie doesn't pass the vibe check. Stories where it could all be resolved by the protagonist just letting the villain do their thing don't do it for me. Still, it had entertaining moments, so I don't outright dislike it.
Aha! You see? Misinformation!
Mary Poser and the Fairy Princess, unfortunately, I think is the only Fairytopia movie that didn't improve on the previous one. I think it's actually the worst of the sequels. It's not a terrible movie, but I think it amounts to nothing more than a weird romp around this one place as we see Mary Poser regularly fuck up. It's so strange too, because Mary Poser was not this clumsy ditzy girl who kept fucking shit up. She was just a normal, capable person who happened to want to go outside. She wasn't perfect, but she had her skills and otherwise was just normally competent. Here she's kind of a bumbling klutz who just fucks up all the time, and it's so weird. This makes the fact that the story is really dull, the villain has no personality and is barely there, and the writing and comedy nothing special, come together to make for a pretty dull film where Mary Poser just bums around in a castle for being a bit and fucks up. For being a bit and fucks up, that's English. Really, the only part of this movie that gets it up here is Princess Catania, a really good and really endearing character whose relationship with Mary Poser is genuinely really sweet. And not in a, oh, 2 girls like each other, they have to be lesbian gay, but in just as a platonic friends, I think they're really good. Genuinely, Catania is so likable, I like her arc a lot. That makes the movie for me, and that's why I don't dislike it.
We just back up for a sec. How long have you been British?
Barbie's Spy Squad rides the fine line between being a storm of cliches with no originality and being a genuinely fun time that manages to accomplish the role of answering the age-old question, what if Totally Spies was not a fetish show? Spy Squad is a generally fun watch, but is marred so much by being probably the most cliche and uninteresting Barbie movie as a movie. As a Barbie movie, it's unique, but as far as movies in general go, which is kind of how I want to view these, it's just a really standard, nothing special spy film. A bunch of athletic gymnasts get drafted into a spy thing because reason, and they chase a super skilled other one who turns out to be working for someone who is part of the company the main characters work for, who is our twist villain, who in this case gets taken out in a really shit way. It was nice to see some more action stuff from Barbie, I will admit. It feels like this is one of the films that steps away from what a stereotypical girly movie is seen as, and has an approach of, films for girls can be the same as films for boys because they're allowed to enjoy what the other enjoys. I like that, I think that's cool. But I don't think this movie is that special beyond the novelty of how different it is to the rest. And even beyond that, it has issues like, as I said, the main villain gets taken out in a shit way. He succeeds in his goal and then Barbie says no and he gets dragged in by robots. The primary antagonist for most of the movie gets almost nothing in the way of a distinct or interesting personality and just ends up turning face because I don't know, there's no reason for that. It just happens. It's just like, oh, maybe being in a team isn't so bad, and it's just really shittily handled. The reveal of who she really is holds no weight, and I just don't think the film has any legs to stand on past the novelty of watching it among the full line where it can stand out. If I wasn't marathoning these, I genuinely wonder if it would get this high, but I'm gonna leave it here for now.
Ah! I found it!
Mermaidia, the second Fairytopia film. I consider it a huge step up from the first. The story feels more cohesive, the journey better constructed, and the characters more interesting. I genuinely like the characters in this movie. Alina's much better, Prince Nalu gets to do more, Laverna's still just fine, but the fungus epic Lordman was a much more entertaining villain than she was in the first, and I came to like Nori as well. It's not a deep movie, and I think it has a lot of bland patches, and it really doesn't do anything crazy or even that interesting, with its like underwater setting, but I think it's a fine watch. That said, my issues with Fairytopia's unintended, almost ableist message kind of pours into this one, as like Alina swaps her wings for a tail and is then stuck with it. Then she eats a berry that makes her into a reflection of who she really is as a person inside, and you'd think who Alina really is would be wingless. After all, she was a hero and capable in spite of her being wingless, and was proud to be who she was, and to not be seen as someone needing fixing. No, not only does she have wings now, she also gets super awesome better wings than everyone else. Okay. But it's not worth reading that deep into. Mermaid Tale is a perfectly watchable movie, I think carried by Nalu and Nori being generally entertaining. Wish they got more scenes together for me to buy their romance though, because as it is, Nori and Alina have all of the romantic tension.
This is my moment!
I wasn't sure exactly where to put Barbie Princess Adventure. It's a balancing act between a movie that's consistently alright enough and has a few fun moments, as well as some fun characters, and a movie that is just rehashing the same Barbie and this lookalike swap places storyline for like the 4th fucking time. Having a twist villain, which is one of those annoying, the moment it's revealed to the audience they start acting all evil all the time type twist villains, I just never really cared for most of the characters. I do like that this one plays into the hardships the characters face more than some of the other Prince and Pauper tales, with it playing up to a ridiculously ludicrous degree how much Princess Amelia has to go through just for her day-to-day work. And I think it's definitely a lot less egregious than some of the other Prince and Pauper revamps, because it doesn't try to rehash the theme of the story. It doesn't want to repeat what the first one did. Instead, it's more about learning to stand up for yourself and what you want to do, which works with Amelia, because that's her whole thing. But in Barbie's case, it amounts to her being an influencer because fuck me dead, getting into this one big corporation, then this gets brought up maybe 2 more times in the entire movie, which is just like, it's just her being it's a manipulatively edited version of her video, and then she says nuh-uh and quits. Which, I don't know, if you squint and draw a curvy line does count as an arc, but it's not very exciting. There's also some really random songs in this, songs that come out of nowhere and have no place, and we're also veering into the era where all the songs start to feel the same for me. Just kind of generic children's soft pop stuff that is not my thing at all. And I don't like these characters enough to make up for that. At least Ken is here though.
Latino!
Barbie and Teresa Recipe for Success is, as of this video, the newest Barbie film that dropped in 2025. It's perfectly solid, a fun movie with some nice character moments and a nice brisk pace. But otherwise, I really don't know what else to say. It's weird that none of the Barbie sisters are around, but I guess I'm fine with that. Brooklyn got to come back instead, and we got some more focus on her relationship with Barbie, so that's nice. It's very much a fun but basic adventure to me.
Dear Diary, yesterday was so amazing.
I'm so upset to rank the Barbie Diaries up here, because frankly, I know why it's here, but how am I supposed to explain it to someone who hasn't seen the film? A lot of what can impact a person's impression of a piece of media when it's being discussed is the visuals, because that's all they can get from the original media itself. This movie is ugly as sin. I'm really glad this is one of the only Barbie movies to look like this. Now, as a movie, I think it has a lot of advantages over some of the others. For instance, the contemporary setting, while not as fantastical or wondrous as usual, was a great breath of fresh air at the time that's just standout, and also has some of the more fun character writing. Because it's not trying to be limited to the stilted, formal manner of speaking as fancy words, or trying to be super modern and hip, the characters are way more fluid and interact way better. I enjoy these characters, including Barbie, because they feel real to me. They talk and banter and joke and shit in ways that I can identify with. While the romance isn't amazing at first, when the movie comes around to revealing who the actual love interest is, it's definitely a lot more endearing a relationship than some of the other films. Poor Todd though, that guy really gets close to Barbie and then she ditches him for someone else. That's really funny. The music's fun, the story's decent, Raquel is an entertaining antagonist, and a lot of the flaws I don't think are that huge. The overly dramatic teen drama stuff I could have gone without, but it's better than some of what we've seen otherwise. The movie is a storm of cliches, but it's cliches that aren't super common to see in Barbie at this point, and there's not really any noteworthy stakes, so it doesn't feel like stuff tends to matter a lot of the time. But the message is nice, that's cool. No, the real issue, as I said, is how ugly this movie is. The animation is genuinely uncomfortable to look at times. Not to mention, it does have some cringeworthy lines, but like, I'm not surprised, teenagers are cringeworthy. It's fine. Another movie in the very specific category of the contemporary setting offshoot of the wider franchise output where the group of female protagonists make up a band that enter a competition to play an important song at an important place films. It's way below Rainbow Rocks, but way above Girls for Life. Let's move on, I don't want to look at this movie anymore.
A mess.
The first Mermaid Tale movie It's alright. I don't think it's anything amazing, but I do like the characters well enough. I think the story's fun, I think the conclusion's decent, and the villain is nothing special, but I do like that there's some level of depth for once. You know, there's this idea that the villain isn't evil for the sake of it, but out of jealousy because she was unfairly born without the abilities of the rest of her family, which is never made out as a bad thing at all. She just took it as a bad thing and never told anybody so nobody could help her. That's neat. I liked Madia well enough, she's fun. I like how genuinely selfish she is at the start, so when she comes to accept her mermaid side and want to help the sea, I do believe that she changed. I think my biggest issue with this movie is that it doesn't feel super inspired. To a degree where I think Mary Poser is just Fairytopia done better, I do feel like this is just Mermaidia but done better. That said, when I was watching the movie, I had some severe audio balancing problems, where at many points the music was so loud I couldn't hear the dialogue. Now, I don't know if that was mine, but if it was, it just drops way lower, but it could have just been how I was watching it.
Not today!
Barbie and Princess Power is a very generic and very one-note superhero movie, but maybe because it was so different at the time, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It doesn't do anything exciting or new with the superhero formula, but it gets past the origin story very quickly and lets us enjoy Kara being a superheroine. She saves the day, she fixes problems, she deals with a copy-paste rival, and takes on a supervillain at the end. It honestly kind of has a similar vibe to a lot of the movies I had to watch for the Lego movie ranking, just instead of Lego's classic charm and comedic sensibilities, it has Barbie's classic, ridiculous, out-of-context moments and silly characters. I enjoyed Kara quite a bit. Maybe it's because she had powers, but I like that her main flaws played directly into what she was in the movie for once. And Corinne definitely wasn't a standout rival, but I enjoyed her enough. The Baron was a pretty entertaining villain, if only because he's such a bumbling loser for most of the movie, and I liked his relationship with the dumb frog that always ruins his plans. More than anything, I think this movie benefits from being one of the few with action scenes in it. Sure, they don't punch and kick each other much, and most of it amounts to rapid energy attacks that don't even have animations for, like, the blast coming out their hands. But it was something, you know? A pretty standard but fun movie. Could have used more character development, especially because the end kind of focuses on the resolution between Corinne and Kara as characters, and I think the villain could have had more unique powers so they could do more creative stuff for the big final fight. But for a cheap direct-to-DVD movie, you could do much worse.
Hi guys, bye guys. Sorry, duty calls.
Dolphin Magic is a low-stakes, minimal stuff happening, kinda boring adventure where Barbie just dicks around and nothing happens. So why is it up here? 2 reasons. 1, this was the return of Ken after a long absence in these films, and he makes the most of his screen time as a pretty fun, enjoyable version of the character. And 2, I really like the new character Isla. I think it's Isla. God, I should have recorded this sooner after watching it. She's a mermaid that comes onto land, gets railroaded into human society by Barbie, and has a fun personality, enjoyably dorky nature, and she's a wonder to watch. She has great chemistry with Barbie, in fact so does Ken, and this is about the point where I realized the movies where Ken has the best romantic chemistry with Barbie are the ones where they're not in a relationship. Those 2 characters made this movie way more enjoyable to me than I think it would have been otherwise. Barbie herself was fine, and I liked that she played into the arcs of the other characters, but it's mostly those 2. Other than that, yeah, I mean, it's completely fine.
Your favorite game! Just Dance!
Barbie Video Game Hero should have been better. It would have even been higher, but one big stinking thing brings it down. But talking about the good, this is a pretty creative movie considering how little creativity tends to go into a lot of these. The NPCs are mostly fun, I just didn't care for what's-his-face. I like the different art styles, at least most of them. The first one left a bad taste in my mouth from the beginning. Like, it has that intentionally choppy 3D animation look that I hate. It's trying to look like anime, but instead it looks laggy and bad and not like a 3D anime actually looks. But we quickly get this equal parts gross and cheap but cute and enjoyable art style. One where Barbie does blackface, and the epic not Minecraft style, with the different characters fitting into the art styles of each world in fun ways. Movies like this tend to really misunderstand gaming culture, so it's nice to see one that, for the most part, doesn't bother. It just happens to take place in a video game, and has a very basic but also not cringe-inducing structure and understanding of video games. The story's fun, the pacing's fun, there's a lot of entertaining set pieces ranging from the light-speed race to the coding gunfight against the virus emojis, to the amusing breaking of the Match 3 game. So where does this movie fall flat a bit? Well, the entire ending revolves around Just Dance, designed to hit you with somehow an even more egregious product placement than the emoji movies attempt to do the same with the very same game. That was a mostly irrelevant scene in the movie that could be cut out without changing too much. This is the main way in which the primary antagonist and problem is defeated and resolved. If it was just the line, "Barbie, isn't your favorite game Just Dance? Yes, Chelsea, it's the best game ever made," that would have been fine. but using it this way just completely took me out of the destination. The journey itself was fun, so I'll still give it a decent placement, but god. 'Cause you're not me! Big City, Big Dreams I feel I should and shouldn't like more than I do. Among all the movies where not much happens, this is probably the strongest. Barbie meets another girl named Barbie Roberts, and their relationship and friendship really makes the movie. I love seeing them have fun together, chatting, getting closer, becoming friends. They have a very real and believable friendship that I think is super worth watching. I think the movie's ability to dodge having to try and balance out the entire Barbie family, plus a new character, plus Ken, means it can really hunker down and focus on Barbie and the newcomer, giving them both time to develop and interact without having to stuff her three sisters in there. While the story doesn't go very many places and there's not much in the way of stuff happening, I was entertained enough by our two leads and the handful of supporting characters to get a decent amount out of the film. However, it has some issues with the pacing and the whole finale. One of the characters is a superstar in disguise, and her dad manipulates events to get her to succeed when she doesn't want to. She wants to fail, and even if she is to succeed, she wants to do it on her own merits. This potentially good plot point leads to an infuriating third act breakup, where someone tells the other Barbie that the main Barbie was seen by Mr. Anon M. Immus sabotaging her, and so she doesn't listen to Barbie. She refuses to think rationally and tells her to fuck off without a single thought for if someone could have been wrong or lying. And then instead of actually addressing this and maybe realizing that she was being impulsive, she just gets shown that the witness was lying, flies back to see Barbie 1, they make up and that's it. The plan of the main villain is thwarted and the day is saved, that's all, that's the whole finale, it just ends. The main villain sits in a car having failed and is sad. That killed the movie a bit for me, but not enough to tank it below the upper echelon of Barbie films. This is where I think the films really become good. So, yeah.
We're cooked.
I feel like there's going to be some annoyance for me putting Mermaid Power over Big City, Big Dreams, call it a hunch, but I just enjoyed this one more. Though I think Big City, Big Dreams highs are much higher, this doesn't have any moment where it just falls off me. I think it's still a fun movie featuring Brooklyn, who I like a lot. I think Barbie's sisters get more identity of their own in this film than some of the others, and I think the overall story is pretty fun. It is just kind of a retread of the third Fairytopia movie in a lot of ways, but I don't mind that too much. Well, I do. I think it's the lack of new ideas that keeps it dropped down a few places. But yes, it has its own things. The villain has an arc, but it's not very strong, so whatever. The one disabled girl being the special is pretty neat. Like, it's not her disability that makes her special, like a certain fairy girl. It's the fact that being disabled pushed her to try her hardest and do her best to improve and be a complete person, despite what others assumed. She's actually not actively bad representation. Her disability informs her actions and how a lot of characters treat and see her, but it doesn't inherently make her worse or lesser. She works hard to live a full life in spite of people's assumptions that she couldn't have one. And it's because she works hard that she turns out to make herself the special, which just basically can represent how hard work can let you become what you want to, regardless of your condition. Barbie not being the special is also pretty cool, because the movie really makes you think that's where she's gonna go. You know, she struggles with all the powers, and it feels like a big moment's gonna come where she masters them all, but no, she's just a water mermaid who struggles with the other powers a bit. I think it's a cool movie.
Oh well.
The second Mermaid Tale, I was bouncing in my head over if I preferred it over the first for a bit, because in some ways I did think it was going downhill. Like, the villain doesn't have any of the depth that was hinted at in the first movie, Madia doesn't have much in the way of character development, and I didn't find it that enthralling. But I think I'd say a few things really helped it get above in the end. One thing, Eris isn't that interesting here, but she is much more effective as a villain, actively getting involved in shit instead of just dodging being around the whole time. There's a sense of proper urgency and danger with her, because her abilities are effective, and her threat levels are actually present outside of a handful of moments. Madia also might not have as compelling a story, but I do think that the way the story connects to her is stronger. Her having to make this choice of performing a ritual that might prevent her from ever going back to the surface, and deciding to accept it for the betterment of others, only for it to turn out that her perfect self is not either fully mermaid or fully human, but rather both, is still compelling. And for once, that whole message of you being you is more important than you fitting in actually works, because there's no reveal that undercuts it. It's just outright. Madia's best self is being both of what she is at the same time, not choosing between one and the other. And as a half Chinese, half German living in a country that is neither of those places, I do kind of connect with that and find it very likable. This movie also takes place in Australia and its reefs, so that really works for me. Kylie Morgan is a pretty good character too. I can believe her really quick face turn, because while she does do some shitty stuff, it's clearly just her being too competitive. When the context of the situation becomes the wider scale of the whole ocean, she immediately becomes cooperative, which is generally not as immersion breaking as some of the other really quick face turns. She was never that bad. She wasn't some extremely cruel or cold bully or villain, just a competitive rival in surfing who got a bit too into things. Her existence also gives a reason for Madia not to spend the entire movie in her OP mermaid who can escape errors as whirlpools with ease form, because that form has to be given to Kylie, otherwise she'll drown. It's pretty naturally worked in the story and I like it. You know, the more I talk about it, the less I feel conflicted on this only being a bit higher than the first. I think it's a substantial step up and a genuinely good movie. Barbie tends to have some great sequels, honestly, it's crazy.
I hate rainbows!
I feel like it's a crime to put Fairytopia 3 up here. It just feels wrong for the third entry in a trilogy to be the best one, or my favourite. I don't know the fan consensus on any of these films, so it'd be interesting to see how different this list is to the consensus. To me though, the third Fairytopia just felt like the best one. I think the Madia is probably the best, because I think the story is a bit tighter, but I got more enjoyment from Magic of the Rainbow. Elena isn't any more interesting than before, but I like that the school setting wasn't an excuse to make the heroes suddenly become bad at shit so they can learn stuff. Elena is just good at things, but fails in other ways that limit her. Though I think the idea of her going past her limits and improving isn't that pronounced. I really don't know if I can peg what I like about this one more than the other two. It might just be that I enjoy the cast of characters. I think Laverna taking an active role in the film this time makes her a far more engaging antagonist, and the whole idea of them learning how to perform this ritual while the underlying tension as to when Elena will realize that Laverna is pretending to be one of the students remains there to ensure that there's a nice balance of having a goal and having tension. Elena's actions aren't primarily independent of the main threat, and the final laser beam fight is pretty fun. I like that Elena unleashed the Pride Beam and gave Barbie an actual body count. Holy shit, she's just dead. I think Sunburst could have been given a bit more depth, at least more time to look into her feels on Elena after she saves her, but it is what it is. I like the cast, I like the story, I like the pacing, I just think this is a fun movie.
You do not exist!
Barbie and the Three Musketeers is definitely one of the more action-packed in the lineup, which did give it a lot of points. In fact, in general, I think this movie got a lot of points simply due to its faster and tighter pacing. I'm never bored with this one. I don't ever feel like my attention is dropping away and going somewhere else. While Corinne is far from my favourite Barbie and I don't particularly care for a lot of the cast, it just worked for me somehow overall. As I said, the brisk pacing and the constant stuff happening made sure I was giving the film the attention that it wanted. I like seeing Corinne fulfill her dreams, and while the whole girls can be just as good as men theming is laid on extremely thick, taking place in the 17th century and also France no less, made the shitness of the community towards females a lot more believable. And yeah, I just enjoy the action here. It's a lot more fun, random stuff instead of magic beams or literally nothing. And the villain is pretty great, with Timothy Curry coming back for another Barbie film and delivering another deliciously evil performance. While it has one of the more standard stories, especially for films up here, I think it's fun.
Wake up, Scrooge! I'm about to take a dickens of a dog!
At first, Barbie and A Christmas Carol was not going to be put all the way up here, because at its best, it's a good adaptation of an existing story. And I wasn't sure how much stock I could put into it being good, because it's built on an already good framework. Then I began to think, well, a lot of Barbie's early movies are adaptations, and this is one of the only ones that I think worked out really well. And then I thought about it, and honestly, the stuff that's wholly original to Barbie, that is the characters used, the specific thoughts they have, and how it relates to Christmas, and the arc that the main character Eden experiences, are all unique to this film, or at least things this film came up with inspired by the original story. And I do genuinely really like this movie and its narrative. It's not just a, wow, Christmas is awesome and cool and shit movie. In fact, you could swap out Christmas with any other widely celebrated holiday that usually allows people a day off. It's more a story about not being selfish, understanding the value of people around you and not taking them for granted, and knowing when you've pushed them too far. When I word it that way, it just sounds like a Christmas Carol. Eden is a bad person, and seeing her develop over time as cracks form in her facade, leading up to the complete breakdown and realization of how shitty she is, was very enthralling. And I like that the movie ends on the ambiguous note as to whether the story even happened, with the possibility that a person who was this shitty actually did exist in Barbie's era. I genuinely came to like Eden and the other characters. The movie knows what works about the story it's adapting and doesn't alter that. Instead, it uses the same elements to tell its own story that's tangentially connected but using the same framework. I think the unique story here is genuinely quite good. A solid movie and a good adaptation that I got a surprising amount out of.
Get out of that bed!
Barbie is the Princess and the Pauper was the first film I finished and thought, you know what, that was a good movie. And it's pretty simple why. This is the first film where Barbie herself is a character. Barbie and Barbie, because she plays both the princess and the pauper, are both developed characters, and I like their chemistry and their dynamic, and I like the love interest too. Not only are they characters, but the reason they fall for their respective Barbies and vice versa are developed. Their relationships are proper fun to watch, and I just actually got invested. The villain here was far from the best to me, though still entertaining, and his classic bumbling henchman duo mooks were a delight to watch. The dumb guy who thinks he's not dumb, and the dumb guy who knows better. And as the first kind of musical Barbie film, I can safely say I really liked the music here. I liked all the songs, not my kind of music frankly, and no match for something like Rainbow Rocks, but still really good. It fit the film, it was very fun and catchy. It's really not any deeper than that. I liked the 4 primary characters and I enjoyed the villain. The writing was tighter, the story was better adapted, a good movie.
This man is an imposter.
Barbie in the Pink Shoes has to be one of the most absurd Barbie films, featuring multiple stories crossing into one another, surprising jokes like the characters from the Middle Ages hitting on Barbie, being told she's only 17, and then saying, oh, well it's not too late for marriage, because hey, they're from an era where 17 was only 3 years off the age limit of a human being. Like, I did not expect that joke. This movie is really fun, both for comedy and because I find the journey that Barbie goes on entertaining. Barbie and her lesbian girlfriend are really fun characters in this one, and there's also a lot of just fun and amusing references to past films and other stories. There's just a lot of fun stuff, I don't know. I will say though, while I do enjoy the message to a degree, I know that ballet is not the best medium for a message about not being restricted to what you're told to do by authorities. Ballet inherently requires following rehearsed moves sometimes, especially if you're dancing in sync with others. If you break off and do your own thing, you'll also ruin the other people you're dancing with and what they're doing. But it's not so bad. The movie is just really enjoyable because of how wild it gets.
Hey!
I really wasn't expecting this, but Mary Poser is my favorite of the Ftopia films. It's weird, because I'm not huge on that whole format of Barbie sits down and tells a story to someone else. But I think with how Alina phrases it this time, it doesn't take away the weight of the story, because you can believe these events might have happened. But for the most part, what I liked about this is just Mary Poser is Alina's whole bit, but better. The idea of someone who is an outcast, so they're different, they sit apart from everyone. This time, not because of a disability or anything, but because she is just different, her interests don't line up with anyone. Being different helps in this situation, but doesn't inherently make her better. And she doesn't inherently start fitting in more by the end. Instead, the lesson is, yes, she is different, but that doesn't make her worse. She isn't worthless just because she's on her own. That I like, and in general, I like most of the characters. Her companions were fun, initially seeming like vain, useless glory hogs, but turning out to be reliable in their own way, and willing to give Mary Poser the spotlight even at their own cost, because they knew her unique skills made her more valuable. The villain has some of the same issues with some of the others, particularly Laverna, where she doesn't interact much with Mary Poser, but there's actually an entire subplot with multiple other characters who I also enjoy, figuring out her schemes and exposing her to those that can do something about it, wherein Mary Poser gets to show up later and get a proper encounter. So while Mary Poser and Henna don't have that much of a relationship, Henna gets to have screen time and relevance in another character's plot to still keep her around in the movie. Mary Poser is generally one of the more tightly written characters and films. It takes the formula of the original Fairytopia and fine-tunes it into what I can actually call a good movie. It's far from a deep movie, but I think it's a great send-off for this art style. This world at least for a while too, and a genuinely fun time that is something that it wants to say and handles it well. It also doesn't feature Barbie as the main character because Kelly Sheridan is there as Alina but doesn't voice Mary Poser. Yet. Why the hell is the babysitting adventure movie featuring Skipper this high up? It's really fucking funny, I don't know what else to say. This movie has a lot of moments I find hysterical, combined with a plot that's so ludicrous that it's just entertaining, though not so absurd that it breaks the modern day and grounded aesthetic of Dreamhouse Adventures. Skipper is a fun protagonist, because unlike how Barbie tends to be, while she's definitely a good person who wants to help, she's got a lot fewer fucks left to give about any given situation. Tammy, who is great in Dreamhouse Adventure Season 4 and 5, is an incredibly entertaining foil that's really fun to watch, and her dad might be my favorite character in the whole series. He combines being really funny with genuinely having some depth to him. He's a father who does love his daughter, but he doesn't realize how much he tends to neglect her for business reasons. When she stands up to him and starts opening up, he pretty quickly cleans up his act and realizes he needs to do better, and he starts trying to do better. Like a lot of characters in the archetype of fat, money-hungry business owner who thinks about everything in relation to monetary gain tend to be caricatures, because of course they are. It's funny. But this guy actually takes that archetype and makes a character from it. which I like. He's more believable. This movie just has a lot of fun stuff. Skipper's arc's good, Tammy's is alright, the dad is cool, the comedy is great. There's a lot of non sequitur scenes that I think are hysterical. I had a lot of fun with this one. There's so many times this got me to actually lol out loud. Of the top few movies, it's probably the worst one narratively and character-wise, but it's so entertaining that I don't care. It might be my favorite. For reasons I don't want to share, I kind of didn't want to like this one, but as it turns out, no, I just kind of really enjoyed Starlight Adventure. It's hard to put into words, but I think at a baseline it has a lot of advantages over the others. Not only does it have a different aesthetic among its contemporaries, but I think it has its own identity as a sci-fi movie, at least compared to Spy Squad as a spy movie. I do find this sci-fi world kind of interesting. A galaxy where the stars are dying of loneliness, thus leaving the entire galaxy out of sync with the rest of the universe. People with super abilities that aren't explained but just accepted as part of the world. A focus not on space battles or laser fights, but instead of characters just interacting and preparing for a big adventure. Even the lack of a villain works for me because the predicament feels meaningful enough to the story that I don't think one was needed. The king kinda comes off like he's gonna be a villain, but no, he just wanted to be the hero and wanted to help. Though strict and very up himself, he's like that for a reason, and a lot of what he says has merit to it. Like Barbie's constant lateness and disobedience being potential demerits to the team, but the king's flaws are believable too. And Barbie herself is really fun in this. An out-of-touch and out-of-water tomboy hoverboard girl who has her own hobbies, likes, dislikes, and a fully fleshed out character with an arc about not making assumptions and believing her point of view is the only one. While it might seem like I'm just explaining baseline things to you that should be expected in a movie, not only are these not terribly common among these films, but I also think they're genuinely handled well. I enjoyed this version of Barbie, exploring this world, the side characters were fun, the token love interest who isn't Ken is pretty cool, Sally isn't just cool because she has purple hair, but because she feels like she's gonna be that up herself top of the world #1 who gets brought down to earth. But no, she already is down to earth, and while she does feel a bit full of herself, it's to a reasonable degree. The Gravity Twins are fun enough, and the King, while looking really weird and uncanny, is enjoyable enough. The only thing I think kind of falls flat at points is the pacing's a bit off. It just kind of ends with the king deciding Barbie is a princess for no reason now as well. I don't think it does much wrong, especially by the standards of both direct-to-DVD animated films and Barbie films overall. I liked it way more than I thought I would.
So, you think I'm not bold enough for 2 duels? Then for that I challenge you to a 3rd duel!
Oh, why not? I wasn't doing anything after the second one anyway.
How could Fashion Fairy Tale produce such a fun sequel? How do I even explain what I love about A Fairy Secret? It's just a lot of stuff happening. The movie's pacing is nice and fast with never a moment to relax, and while normally that'd be bad, this film is really fun. Barbie and Raquel's relationship is entertaining, their banter is top notch, their reconciliation is great. I like it. Ken's scenes are a riot. This is one of the most fun Kens I think in general, with the snark and attitude from Diamond Castle, the useful skills of Magica Pegasus, and the actual chemistry with Barbie that some of the later ones would have, while retaining all the massive loser dork attributes he had in Fashion Fairy Tale. His role is also significantly more important, so his scenes get to be just as, if not more entertaining, while also being far more relevant to the story. I think the villain is fun, the twist villain's okay, the Latino hunk is amazing and has some fucking fantastic banter with Ken, I love their dynamic. In general, I think the dialogue is really fun and manages to find a nice balance between being self-aware without being actively annoying. It feels like it wants to be actively funny with its self-aware comedy, instead of trying to use the self-aware comedy to deflect from how unfunny it is. There's some really nice effects and stuff, there's entertaining characters. It's really entertaining and also barely over an hour long, so it has no filler like some of the others. Good stuff.
Make him pay! Destroy him!
Wow, I did not think I'd be giving any of these, aside from like that one movie, a score nearing a full 8 out of 10, but I really like Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus. Annika, at the time of watching this film, was by far my favorite incarnation of Barbie, and still is up there. A spunky, fun, feisty, tomboyish royal who is this amazing balance of being a tomboy and being girly. Not falling fully into either camp, and managing to feel like a complete person who doesn't try to be the stereotypical girly girl trope Barbie is commonly attributed with, but also not eliminating her femininity for the sake of it. It's a nice balance where she feels believable, and her love interest Aiden is one of my favorite at the time of watching it. He's a properly developed and interesting character with a believable motive, both to help Annika and to help with his own goals. I really liked how his story ended. Annika says that she made a mistake and wants a second chance, and that makes him help her. Later on, when they're warned not to take gemstones out of greed, he takes a second one when they only needed one, but nothing bad happens. And when Annika asks how nothing bad happened, he explains that he wants to sell this gemstone to make up for gambling away all of his parents' money, but instead, when the first gemstone breaks, he gives it to Annika so she can complete the MacGuffin quest and make the Wand of Light. And when he finally returns home, his parents don't care that all the money's gone, they just care that their son is back, and man, that made me happy. I love shit like that. Annika's great, Aiden's great, I even like Brietta. Hell, I like what could have been an annoying noisemaker pet character, but the polar bear's fucking awesome, I don't care. And the villain might be one of the most evil, entertaining, and deliciously fun to watch. Wenlock is so fucking sadistically cruel, it's insane. A wizard who goes around taking wives and then when they annoy him too much, turns them into trolls to serve him. And when women he likes say no, he turns them into horses, he taunts their parents, or turns everyone they know and love into stone. All while laughing about it, mocking people relentlessly and acting like he's above it all. He carries so much energy. I genuinely really like this movie. It has a great Barbie, a great Ken, a great villain, and a great story. There's fun action scenes, fun character sequences. My god, I really enjoyed this.
Surprise!
Oh boy, I sure am surprised!
Yeah, well, I mean, what were we expecting? I feel a bit dirty putting this film at number 1. Not because it doesn't deserve it, because it's far and away the best one here, but because it's not really a Barbie film. The 2023 Barbie movie is a film that's very much exclusively about Barbie as a meta thing, her impact on the real world, and deconstructing her nature as a feminist symbol, for better and worse. The movie hilariously exposes people who watch it, with all the people calling the movie man-hating and anti-male, completely failing to read that its portrayal of men is an inversion of how women have often been portrayed as historically. Eye candy with no character, no important role beyond their relationship with the main protagonist, any want to step outside and be relevant being shoved away and pushed back. And while it can feel super one-note on its criticism of both patriarchy and matriarchy, it's not doing that out of spite. The movie's main characters are female, and from a matriarchy, so it is very much more vocally against the patriarchy. But it does also highlight that the way things used to be aren't good either. This movie is stringently anti-gender domination. It's a film that supports equality, but not people who fight for superiority under the guise of equality. A criticism of groups and people who claim they want gender equality or equality in other spaces when really they want superiority and to put down the other side, thus making them in essence no better than those who they're against. This movie's not subtle about that either. However, I think the unsubtlety is part of the charm. Aside from the big speech near the end, which felt maybe too ham-fisted even for this film, and kind of just made me think about how, as a male, I feel pressured to never talk about societal pressures put onto men, because there are other groups who get it worse, and thus I feel like I don't deserve to talk about my issues, as I would be perceived as taking the spotlight away from even more marginalized groups. And like, maybe it was supposed to make me think about that, but I don't know, I don't think that was intentional. This movie still managed to be fun, striking, creative through its everything. The acting's fun, the characters are entertaining even when one note. The set design is phenomenal for Barbie Land. How it manages to capture through direction and how put together it is, the feeling of a dollhouse. The hilariously hand-waved cosmological structure of this nonsense world and its relation to reality is hysterical, and makes for a consistently entertaining movie. I was never bored watching this. It had my full attention, and a lot of jokes I really got the kick out of. Shout out to the narrator coming out of nowhere to break the fourth wall for no reason, and the sudden depression Barbie advert. Those are exactly my kind of nonsense comedy. But what really gets me about putting this film at the top is that, for what it's trying to do, it naturally has to misrepresent Barbie as a franchise. As in, the media and stories told by Barbie itself. It plays into the stereotypes of Barbie as some dumb blonde bimbo, for lack of a better term. I see a lot of people talking about how this movie subverts Barbie by making her actually smart and intellectual, which, do people not know anything about Barbie? Of course not. Most people only know Barbie by reputation, and to a degree, controversy over what she is, as I've experienced across 49 other movies. With the entire world made up of Barbies and only a handful of other characters, only Ken among the male characters being prominent, and no addressing of what Barbie is supposed to be as a character, it didn't really feel like Barbie to me. I don't think this is inherently a criticism, because the movie works fine with the approach it goes for, and I'd argue it plays into its simultaneously basic and complex depiction and deconstruction of feminism and wider movements as a whole much better than if they tried to add any of this. But in a list like this, ranking Barbie movies, it feels almost wrong. This is the best one. In my opinion, none of the others they're not even remotely close. But if you don't think it should count, I wouldn't blame you. Strike it off the list, move everything up one spot if that makes you happy. For me, I'll keep it here, but with an asterisk. And that's my ranking of all 50 Barbie movies, asterisks included. From the good to the bad to the really fucking boring. This was amusingly enough far from the most miserable watching experience, and not knowing anything about the reputation of these films made it relatively easy to just see how I felt without anything influencing me. Compared to even rival company Hasbro's output, the Mattel lineup of Barbie films was not that hard to stomach. So with all that said, what should I look at next? I've done Hasbro twice, I've done Lego, and now I've done Mattel's flagship. What toy commercial movies have enough combined for me to look at? Or should I just throw them all into one big melting pot and see how it goes? You tell me. I'm gonna go edit this video. Okay, there's two ways this goes. Either one, the Barbie fans all come along and they're like, you know what, I agree. Well, not necessarily I agree, but I accept your opinion and that's cool and you're allowed to think what you want to think. I'm glad you're getting into our fan base. Or the Barbie fans show up and say, how dare you put Fairytopia not in the top 10? You deserve to have your balls removed. Oh, and the Nutcracker also not up there? I will end your existence. One of those is gonna happen. I don't know, because the only thing I ever see with the Barbie fanbase is discourse over Life in the Dreamhouse versus Dreamhouse Adventures. Life in the Dreamhouse all the way, by the way, but I still do really like Dreamhouse Adventures. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Tell me what you think about the idea of doing the toy ranking thing. Like, should I do it? Because I have like ideas. As like a potential preview of what that would look like. It would have Masters of the Universe live action, whether I like it or not. It would have the 2 Mega Bloks films. It would have the movie of like that other sort of brick built thing, that other toy line. Name's forgetting me. I'll grab it before I make the list, or whereas I'm making the list. It would have the Bratz movies. It would have the other Beyblade movie, the one that's never been licensed by Hasbro. And that's because I don't care if that's based on a manga. I want to talk about it, unless I do a Takara ranking or I rank. Yeah, I'll have ways to get the Metal Series movie on the list, or on a list someday. I'll probably include. Well, I was gonna say include the Clue movie. Clue's not a toy; it's a board game. But yeah, I'll find ways. Don't worry. It'll be stuff based on toy lines, and I'll put the list together. It's probably going to be decently big, but not nearly this big. This is the biggest one, flat out. Nothing's going to top this for now. Well, what am I saying? You already know the comic book movie ranking's going to be a thing. That I've already announced that is going to be bigger. You might be noticing that I've got a new outfit on. That is because this new model and the amazing artwork in the thumbnail were created by my very good friend Kitty Calamari. I will link her in the description. Please go check her out. Support her and tell her that she's amazing and the best ever. I want to keep using this model at least sporadically. I like it. I think it's great. So yeah. Have I said I hope you enjoyed yet? Well, I have. You're gonna get it again. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you to everyone scrolling by on the screen for supporting me on Patreon. You can too if you want to. In the link in the description, you would have access to this video like maybe a week early. I'm not sure exactly how much. I don't remember. But usually I aim to not be too much more than a week early, because I don't want it to be like a huge blockade. But yeah, you can get videos like this early. Along with any of my, well, not any, but a lot of my other content that's major, my reviews of a certain versus show no one cares about, my other movie rankings, icebergs as they're gonna come out, yeah, so, I just hope you all like this video. Tell me what you think below about Barbie and her movies. And I hope I've inspired some people who've only seen the live action one or heard of the live action one to go check out some of her other movies, because they're not bad, they're not terrible. Like, this is one of those things where like a lot of people I know in real life would probably roll their eyes and go, "Oh, you're ranking all the Barbie movies?" And I'd be saying something along the lines of, "Yeah," because I don't want to gender media to the point where I decide to write something off just because it's not strictly for a cis male. I think that's not unfair. I think that's reasonable. So I understand the stigma that comes from a guy like me doing stuff like this, but I also know the internet, or hopefully the corner of the internet that I've carved my niche in, are a little better than that, which the reaction to the community post so far has proven, at least by that small sample size. Y'all are great. That's epic. Cheers. So anyway, if you support me on Patreon, you also get access to my Patreon only Discord, which you can use to make me say dumb gobbledygook like what's about to happen. So let's get this, for lack of a better term, fucking over and done with. I'm just Nem. I'm the Barbie girl, and you're all living in my world. Okay, we're not gonna go that far. I'm not singing shit. How can I refuse? Oh man, Preminger. I know I said that he's not the best villain, and I stand by the fact that I think there are several villains better than him. He's great though. Like, I was looking back through clips, of course, to when editing the video at Princess and the Pauper, and like, he's great. He's so good. He's just really funny. Pick a random pinned message from our DMs. Okay, let's get the number 20. Okay, we're going to message number 20 in our DMs that have been pinned. All weird stuff that I've said, because Biff never says anything weird ever. Speaking of dripping sex appeal, where's Ryu? Oh god, 21 is a bad one. I'm glad I don't have to say that one yet. Oh god, metal face impression.
Nice argument, Don Man. Unfortunately, I already edited your versus battle wiki page to make you below launch building level.
Something like that. Tonight's episode, the writer's barely disguised elephant green screen. Now, I'm not gonna say Kratos versus Azra moment, but I'm not doing that. No. I'm not fucking doing any power scaling for Barbie today. Sublime! That's her, that's the one, she did this whole thing. That's her. Thank you. Wow. That's amazing! Hello, I am Ben, Ken's cousin. Life in the Dreamhouse is too good for this world. Okay, that would be that. That was a lot of fun ones with no skeletons this time. It just got to be a nice, normal, entertaining romp. Thank you. Yeah. So as I've said probably like twice, 3 times now, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. And yeah, I'll see you for another ranking down the line. Bye.